Chasing Rainbows. What an intriguing title. But what exactly does it mean? I expect you looked it up like I did before doing your flower arranging. Well, my computer said that when you chase a rainbow, you're trying to do something or achieve something that's not really possible or achievable. I expect we've all chased a rainbow at some time in our lives. That's not necessarily a bad thing. I remember when I was a teenager, I wanted to be a professional dancer. Each week we watched Sunday night at the London Palladium, and I decided I wanted to be a Tiller girl. Well, they seemed to have such glamorous lives. As you can imagine, this didn't go down very well at home. My father said, dancing is okay as a hobby, but you now need to look for a proper job, and suggested I applied to the banks. Well, Lloyds Bank gave me a job. I started as a junior clerk, and then I went on to working with customers on the counter. In the evenings, I continued my dance classes, and I also joined the local operatic society. This gave me the opportunity to not only dance, but to sing and act. Well, after 3 years of working at the bank, I decided this was not how I wanted to spend the rest of my life. I was still chasing that rainbow of being a dancer. I tried to get a job as a local dance teacher or as an assistant dance teacher at a school, which I managed to do. I went home and I announced I was leaving the bank. I don't think they ever really forgave me. I eventually qualified as a dance teacher and then opened my own school. Really exciting. The first week I had 8 students. Well, Rome wasn't built in a day. It wasn't long before the numbers increased, and eventually I had to employ another teacher. She took the ballet classes, while I took the tap and modern classes. Each year we entered the children for examinations, and then every other year we produced a show at the local theatre. I then went on to choreograph for both professional and amateur productions, working with the likes of Bucks Fizz, Fuella Benjamin, Sandy Shaw, and Colin Baker, better known as Doctor Who. Little did I know that this was going to stand me in good stead when I became a NAFAS speaker. Actors are notoriously superstitious, and I remember during my first professional production, we were rehearsing the finale and the pantomime of the pantomime, and the dame delivered the last line as la-di-da-di-da. Most peculiar. It didn't fit at all. It wasn't till later that I realised it was bad luck to recite the last line before opening night. Now, they do say never work with children and animals, and I have done both. I was on stage with a class of 3-year-olds. Now, at the studio, they'd learnt how to run on the stage one behind the other and make a circle and hold hands ready for the next section. When we got to the theatre, they were so excited to be in their costumes under the bright lights. Well, the music started and they ran onto the stage. But they were so interested in picking up the bits of glitter on the floor that had been left there from the previous class that they forgot everything I taught them. The audience were in fits of laughter as I desperately tried to get them to hold hands in a circle. I was obviously fighting a losing battle. Like all teachers, I thoroughly enjoyed watching the children grow and improve. Some of them went on to work in the West End and on cruise ships. And also, some of them opened their own schools. I was so proud when I went to watch them dance. So my dream did come true, although in a slightly different way. However, good things must come to an end. And eventually I had to sell the school due to ill health. So what should I do now? I decided I would study for a certificate in education at Southampton University. Once I'd passed my Cert Ed, I travelled around the UK teaching groups of dance teachers anatomy and physiology and marking exam papers. I even went to Italy on a few occasions and worked with teachers over there. It was around this time that I joined a flower club, which I thought would be relaxing and give me another chance to use my creative skills. It didn't seem to be so relaxing. Eventually, I became secretary of the club and then chairman of the Teachers Association. And then I trained as a NAFAS speaker with Anne Jennings. So it wasn't so relaxing in the end. I did realise though that everything I was doing was less physical than my previous life. It meant I was putting on weight, my muscles were getting weaker by the minute. So I decided the best thing to do was to join a Pilates class. Now we're very lucky in our area, we have an excellent Pilates teacher who soon got me back on track. I expect some of you do Pilates classes too. But do you know anything about the man, Joseph Pilates, who actually invented these exercises? Well, I'll put a photograph of him on the screen now. So let's look at how and why Pilates developed his training program. Joseph Pilates was born in Dusseldorf in 1880. He was quite a sickly child and suffered from asthma, rickets, and rheumatic fever. In fact, his parents were warned that he may not reach adulthood. His father was a prize-winning gymnast, and Pilates became obsessed with physical training, hopefully to improve his own body shape. He went on to train as a fitness trainer and became a successful boxer, and he was also very interested in skiing and diving and very good at it. In 1912, he came to England and he worked at Scotland Yard teaching detectives self-defence. Unfortunately, World War I broke out and he was interned on the Isle of Man because of his nationality, along with other Germans living in this country. It was at this time that he developed a training program for his other internees. He used the iron beds that they had been issued, along with other bits and pieces that were readily available. In fact, interestingly, he claimed that all the internees who followed his program didn't suffer or die from the Spanish flu, which killed thousands of people in 1918. After the war, he returned to Germany and had a successful career teaching the Hamburg police force. However, he was also instructed to teach the new German army, and he didn't agree with Hitler. So he decided the best thing to do was to emigrate to America. Now, it was on the boat going over to America that he met his wife Clara, and I have a photo here of the two of them together. When they reached New York, they opened a fitness studio. And interestingly, it was in the same building as New York City Ballet. The director of the ballet company at the time was George Balanchine, and he took the opportunity to train with the master. He also encouraged his dancers to do the same, to improve their fitness, their strength, and their flexibility. Even today, dance companies all over the world use Pilates exercises to improve their strength and flexibility. Now, in New York, actors, sports people, the rich and famous living in New York all went to Pilates. And I have a picture here of a guy who I think he's got this balance of flexibility and strength. What do you think? Yes, I'm not suggesting that we try this. During my research, I found a group of people who had trained with Pilates, some very interesting names that I'm sure you're going to know. For instance, Martha Graham, Gregory Peck, Katharine Hepburn, Patrick Swayze, Honor Blackman, Michael Crawford, Joan Collins, Pat Cash, Wayne Sleep and Simon Callow. Quite an impressive list, and there are many more. As we get older, it's so important that we continue to exercise both our minds and bodies. So if you're like me and you could improve your strength and flexibility, how about joining me with a few simple exercises that we can do in our own homes? And I will show you the correct and safe way to exercise. As you can see, we've come outside for the next section. I'm going to first of all talk about standing completely straight, which is very important before we start. And if I turn to the side, I'm going to work from the top down to our toes. So everybody gets into bad habits, and I know I do. I used to teach tap for many years, and I tend to have this tendency to stand in this position. So you must tuck your tail under, hold your core muscles, and stand up straight. So you're trying to make a straight line between the top of your head, through your shoulders, your hips, and down to your toes, or the middle of your feet in actual fact. So let's start. I'm going to turn around this way, and we're going to just start with our heads, a very simple exercises, but it will work your neck. So we're going to turn your head to the right and back to center, and the other way, and back to center, and again. Now we're going to try and stretch the backs of our necks now. So just take your head to the right again, and down, stretching the back of the neck, and up. Other side. Once more. Right, well done. Now take your feet slightly further apart in parallel, and we're going to use our shoulders next. So just lift your shoulders up and down, making sure you're holding this correct position with your tummy and your tails. And up and down, and up and down. Now how about rolling the shoulders? This will work the shoulder joint. Roll your shoulder back. If you've done a lot of exercise, there's no reason why you can't actually take your arm. Just keep it nice and loose. Now, we're going to lift our arms to the side. So just take them up so they're parallel with the floor and down. Now, I'm going to just talk about lifting our arms. If you put one hand onto your shoulder blade and lift the other arm, the shoulder blade shouldn't move that much. This is where your arm starts, in the center of your back. So if your shoulder blades lift, that is wrong. So you need to keep the shoulder down. Right, let's try once again, and lift both arms so you're pulling across your chest and keeping your shoulder blades down. All right, well done. Okay, we'll now work down to our waist. So we're going to twist from our waist, slightly further apart with your feet might help you. So if you take your arms this way, now we're going to aim to keep our hips still and just twist from our waist. So again, it's very important. We're holding this core and keeping everything in a straight line. Don't forget to take your head with you. Right, good. Now how about stretching upwards now? I'm just going to talk about this lifting out of your waist. If you put your thumb on your rib cage and your middle finger on your hip bone and relax, now lift up through the waist and you'll feel that gap getting wider. And this is the position we need to be in before we stretch over. So we're going to lift up, lifting as high as you can, holding on to everything, and take your arm over to the side. And you should feel this here. And you'll feel it, in fact, you'll feel it both sides. And lift up and over. Now, a very common fault is to lift up, and as you go over, to move your hips. And that's not a good thing at all. So we're aiming to keep these hips still. Once more on this side, and over and up. Now let's try the other side. Stretch up first, and over, and stretch up, and over, and up. Last time, keeping hold of those hips, and over, and up. Well done. Right, taking your legs now further apart, we're going to do some lunges. Now it's now important that you keep your weight back on your heels, and we're going to stretch over to one side. Now you're going to feel that here. You're going to stretch there. And we'll try the other side. Now I've got quite long legs, so I feel I should take my feet further apart. So it's going to depend on your own body shape. So weight back on your heels and stretch, and up, and stretch, and again, over and up, and over and up. Well, I'm just going to finish with one more now for your feet. So again, upright position, feet in parallel, not too far apart. We're going to lift one heel. I think for this one, if you put your hands on your waist, it'll make sure you don't move these hips. So what we don't want to do is to lift the hip when you lift the heel. So keeping the hips square, you're just going to lift your heel up and down. Other side, heel up and down. Once more on both sides. Now we're going to make that a little bit more complicated. We're going to change over in mid-air. And this time you're going to need to balance. So lift up from one side and up and over. And up and over. Now again, trying to come down with control and not collapse, which is more difficult. Right, well done. So that completes my just few simple exercises, but we're just going to go on to say, before I finish, I want to say, I found a quotation from Joseph Pilates, and he said, "Take care of your body. It's the only place you have to live in." Well, I hope you've enjoyed this video and you can take something from it. Now, don't be afraid to chase that rainbow. You never know, one day you could win Best in Show. Take care and thank you for listening. Bye.